Is this thing on? Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Facebook, why are you always the one to give me trouble? You know, I think that as interested as Mark Zuckerberg should be in live streaming, he should make this a lot easier because it's always his platform that gives me hiccups. Okay, well, there we go. How about that? Finally figured it out. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It is Tuesday, my dudes. It is yet another Tuesday. It's the Tuesday just after Mother's Day. So I hope you, if you are a mother or your own mother or your sister, if you have one who's a mother or your auntie, you know, all those people, anybody in your life, I hope you've had a great Mother's Day. I'm so excited for you guys to join me tonight. It's Tuesday. Hey, what's up, Insta One Only Net? Hope you're doing good. Bienvenido. Yeah, so a lot of things have happened in the last week or so. So my fundraiser for Texas schools has come to a conclusion. I was able to raise a little over $350. So thank you guys so much. Proceeds are going to benefit Texas students' technology fund in Irving ISD. So I'm pretty excited about that. Had a good conversation with one of their, I guess, their CFO of the district. And hey, what a neat experience and opportunity that was. But I'm also really excited that all of you guys just helped me with the gift, right? I mean, we made it possible for some of these kids to get access to the internet. So thank you for that. And I hope that we're able to do projects like that together in the future because, you know, I've done philanthropy for several years at this point, and you know, I rely on my friends and my social network and other creative things that I do to generate funds for that. So thank you guys. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is I'm going to show you guys how to draw hands. Just about everybody has issues with these things, and it's probably because there's a lot going on. I mean, you know, on the average hand, you know, they got different points of articulation. You've got different muscles, knuckles, you know, different lengths of knuckles, you know, but I'm going to show you guys some handy tricks that I use whenever I draw hands that just kind of help me understand what it is that I'm looking at and how I'm really going to put it down on paper. I think that one of the things that we need to always be mindful of when we draw is the idea that we need to draw what we're actually seeing, especially when it comes to hands. We need to draw what we're seeing because there's a tendency for people to want to draw what the mind is thinking that it's seeing. And so that's why when you see a lot of drawings that don't look realistic, they don't look realistic because they look like the imagination has made them up. So I've got, I'm going to use my own hand as reference. If you're drawing at home and you want to learn, I suggest that, whatever your non-dominant hand, for me, it's my left. So if you want to box, try to catch me in a southpaw position. I won't be as good. But I'm going to use my left hand and I'm just going to move some different parts around so I can show you what kind of shapes that I'm seeing. And then as you think about the way that you do your drawing, you'll be able to draw with those shapes too. So I'm super excited about that. Let's talk about our tools for success today. I, of course, have my shavings cup here. This is an upcycled Chobani Greek yogurt container. So I appreciate Chobani for that. I've got my pencil sharpener here, and I've got 3 different hardnesses of lead pencils. So starting off over here, this is my 2H. This is going to be my lightest. I probably will not wind up using this for very much except for some detailing in the drawing. This is my regular 2 pencil. This is just a number 2 pencil that you would get at a store, in the school supplies section. Number 2 stands for 2B, which is the softer and darker charcoals, leads, that you find in pencils. What's up, James? How are you, man? And then I'm going to use my 6B here, and this bad boy is going to lay down my nice, rich, dark tones. And that's going to be a lot of fun, because when you get super dark with your tones, like, I don't know, it's just like a normal pencil, you know, that everyone's used to drawing with, like, you know, it's like, it just leaves you wanting a little bit more. But this is like the turbo nitro pencil, where like you get a whiff of this bad boy. I mean, I'm just shading it, right? I mean, look at that residue. I got some on my finger. It's just very exciting. Yeah, man. I love it, brother. I hope you're able to get back to what you love and what you're good at doing too, my friend. Okay, guys. So let's talk a little bit about shapes, right? I mean, because that's really what a lot of my drawings are about, is identifying what the shapes are, and, you know, how to use shapes to create really volume, to use something, you know, to create something that looks real. Some of y'all are going to get different angles for this, and that's just kind of the nature of the streaming medium. You know, I am streaming on 3 platforms simultaneously. Some of y'all are on Instagram, so you're going to get more of the direct angle. Some of y'all are on YouTube and Facebook, and you're going to get more of a side angle. So those of you who are more at the side angle, the way that my drawings are going to look are going to be somewhat bizarre. So I'm going to just kind of pick a neutral hand pose, something that's like this. And actually, you know what? Maybe I need to move that, because my big old fat head's going to get in the way. Yeah, I want to lose my iPad like that. See. You anticipate what things are going to do, and then you put your Instagram to sleep, and you kill your channel. I'm back. That's what happens. Okay, good. All right. Spaz alert. Okay. So like I said, I'm going to pick just a nice neutral hand position. Okay, so the first couple of shapes that I want to point out is my hand is really a collection of different shapes that are all integrating at the same time. So the first shape that I'm really seeing loud and proud is a big square here. Or it's almost a diamond, just because I'm holding my hand off at an angle. So if I want to think about the first shape, though, it's just a square at an angle, okay? Now, obviously, it's got different contours, and it's not a perfect square, but I'm just talking about the big shapes. The second shape that I see is this egg shape here, which represents that big old fat pad of skin here where the thumb really begins. You know, there's not a lot of muscle in the hand. You know, most of the muscle comes from the forearms. You know, the fingers are bones with little tendons strapped to them. There's not really any muscle, just some padding and some meat there. So when we think about that, like, we start to understand, you know, how some of this articulation happens, right? Because fingers only articulate in, they don't articulate to the side, they have to be pushed to the side, right? So fingers always collapse in, they go wide, and they come in. So one way to think about wide shapes that become narrow shapes is like triangles, right? So we'll think about the movement of the fingers in a triangle shape as we create our line work later on. Okay, so I'm here, I've got this meat here, and I've got this meat here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my next set of squares, because I'm seeing 3 sets of squares, or really kind of a rectangular shape here. Triangle here, just like that. So I got 2 squares on the top, and that's going to represent the fingers, right? And the fingers kind of, you know, the interesting thing is also when you draw fingers, you know, most people try to draw them individually. And one of the reasons why, in my opinion, that doesn't read as well is that fingers can articulate and be separate. But when you actually like think about the mechanisms of our hands, our fingers tend to move in concert. So sometimes people's right and middle finger or outside pointer finger and middle finger will group together. Sometimes their ring finger and pinky will group together. Sometimes, and that's not really natural for my hand, is that their hands will group together like this, where the middle two will, the middle finger and the ring finger will group together, and you'll have this kind of separate tripod action. My hands kind of do like this, like the Vulcan live long and prosper deal. I don't know if it's just because, you know, the sport that I do in my free time, the jiu-jitsu, or what. But anyway, so I'm treating this as one object that I'll break apart, and this is another object that I'm going to break apart. And I hope that that little tip there is worth the whole video, because it took me many, many years of seeing to figure out that little secret that I just shared with you. So if this was a multi-level marketing scheme, I think that that would definitely be the big winner. Okay, second point. Now that I'm kind of doing this, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. All right, let's start by drawing the ball here of the thumb. This piece here is very ball-like. I mean, especially if you see mine, like it looks like a big old circle. And that's great. So I draw a big old circle here, right at the edge of this fat, meaty part here. I'm going to do that there. Now I'm going to build a little cylinder here, and it's short. You know, this piece here is not very long. It's maybe an inch on me, right? So as I'm doing that, I mean, I think sometimes the tendency is to do a really long thumb. It's not really super long, right? You don't have to make it super long, okay? I'm gonna make that a little longer though. I say that. I gotta make it to scale with my other drawing. I'm kind of doing this cylinder here. And now I'm gonna start getting into my other shapes, right? So I know I've said triangle at least once. I'm gonna draw the thumb as basically a triangle here like that. Now, obviously, it rounds out more and it actually tapers in a little bit. But when I think about the general shape, if I can think about the general shape and then get specific, I'm going to wind up with a better looking drawing, in my opinion, than if I tried to do it perfect the first time. Okay, and then that way I'm able to see the different parts there like that. Okay, so going on here just like that. All right. Now, one of the next things to think about is the actual meatiness of the hand. That's the folds here. I think in elementary school, I remember that people would palm read and they would like say, oh, you've got this kind of hand line. That's what that means. Oh, you've got this kind of hand line. That's what that means. I don't know what any of my hand lines mean. I hope it's good. If you're into that kind of stuff, you know, drop me a comment and let me know that I'll be like, you know, wealthy one day, or like super smart, or like, you know, popular, you know, or I'll have like a cool following of people who watch me draw art videos. Yeah, that'd be neat. Huh. All right. Well, look at that. Okay. So I just kind of draw the meatiness, and I'm just really just looking at what it is. So I'm seeing lines that look like that, seeing lines that look like that, and then there you go. Okay, so now that I've got my square here representing these two fingers and my square here representing these two fingers, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to start working into the negative space, right? So when I'm drawing, there's positive space and then there's negative space. So I'm going to start, you know, then positive space is the entire shape. The negative space is where I start to like carve out of that with my pencil marks, right? So in this instance, I'm going to have carved out right here. I'm seeing some light kind of poking out. So I'm going to draw just like a little rectangle here. And I'm seeing a little rectangle here. And I'm seeing a little rectangle here. All right, and that's these two fingers. Now, I'm not going for perfect right here, okay? So you shouldn't be going for perfect here either. I'm really just going for the idea that I'm seeing, and then I'm going to start refining, 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 refining. Okay, And then I see my great big old long ring finger. It's going down here like that. This is going down maybe a little bit more. See it rounding here, nice, big and round. Just like that. Just like that. Nice rectangle. And boom. Into here. Yep. Okay, good. All right. So this is where thinking about triangle shapes is really going to come in handy. If you notice, I pretty much have a triangle shape here with these two fingers. I don't have two fingers in alignment. And a lot of people like to draw hands that way, and that's why they look weird, right? So if I think about drawing my hand more as a triangle shape, then I'm going to get those like that grasping motion. You know, even as I look at how my fingers distribute across my palm, you can see that my actual fingers are inside my palm, and the lines are pointing inward and inward. So everything is here, and then when I open, it gets wide, closed, wide. All right, so triangles, triangles, triangles. So I'm here, and notice I've got already just kind of a little stagger in where the lines go, right? Boop. I'm going to just bring over the face of that. There you go, just like that. I say that a lot, I think. That's like one of my catchphrases, just like that, just like that. All right, cool. Yes, yes. Hands, hands, man. Hands to dance, dance, dance. All right, so I got that. Okay, now we're going to start breaking shapes into shapes. And how messy is this? Yeah, that doesn't look too messy. It looks like you can see what I'm doing. All right, so I've got a lower front knuckle here. I'm going to think about that as an even smaller square on the square, right? Or smaller rectangle on the rectangle. All right, and I'm just staying loose, right? Staying loose. You know, one thing to think about is that these two lines look like they're right at about the same place, but erase. Start over. Square. Okay. Let's talk real quick about how this finger meets into the palm. Kind of meets at an angle. Okay. So I know that earlier I said that the palm is a square, and it is, but it's a square maybe with these corners cut. So whatever shape that is, a hexagon, yeah, whatever. It's a hexagon, but it's basically built on a square chassis. All right. So think about it like that. Or that's the way I like to think about it. All right. So I'm here, and I got kind of I'm draw instead of a rectangle, I'm gonna draw more of a fat triangle. Yeah, that's more what I want. I'm gonna do these on two different levels. So as I refine, I'm gonna bring one finger down. I'm gonna bring that finger in. There you go. And that way these two can be friends. They can be at the same level. Boop. Boop. There we go. All right. Boop. All right. And I'm just kind of doing that knuckle. All right. So pretty quick, I mean, I'm able to get the whole hand shape down. Now I'm going to get in here and I'm going to start refining a little bit. You know, like I was saying, I don't think. Can you see that? You can't really see that. Okay, no 2H for me. All right, so I'm going to keep using the 2. All right, so now that I've gone in and done the structure, now let's go in and do some of the shading. All right. All right. So remember, everything is working on the 6 stages of light. So I've got highlight, light, shadow, core shadow, light, reflected light, cast shadow. Okay? I know that I went through that pretty quickly. On YouTube, I've got my series talking about light. You're more than welcome to review that. If you do, make sure you hit the like button because that would be nice. I like light. Okay. So everything that we're doing has to follow these rules because that's the way that light pretty much works. And if we want our drawings to be realistic, then we need to follow the rules of reality. All right, makes sense. You want to abstract, cool by all means, rock and roll. I'm going to teach you how to draw really cool abstractions because you can draw realistic things. All right, now I'm going back outside of my initial shape here. I'm going to start adding some of that organic roundness to the fingers. All right, there's actually a little bit of a lip right here as these things kind of come forward into space. Now, the more you kind of get into your seeing journey, you'll start to see little subtle things like that. All right, boop. Round these fingers off. Round these fingers off. You know, I think it depends on really what your particular knuckles look or fingers look like. Some people have really long, elegant, tapered fingers, and that's lovely. Some people have really fat, bulbous fingers. I've kind of got somewhere in between, and so it doesn't really matter. Just make sure that you're staying accurate with with the shapes that you're seeing. So for me, I'm seeing, really a shallow curve going around at the tip. I'm not seeing a point, right? If you got fingernails, maybe you'll see a point, but that's just kind of a drawing tip. I see a lot of people making hands with the super pointy fingertip, and I don't point out the thumb. The thumb's a work in progress. But that's, it breaks the illusion where people are like, I don't think so. That doesn't read. And, getting them to read what you're putting down, like that's part of the satisfaction of the art making process, right? Or at least for me it is. Okay, so let's think about our light, right? So I've got light coming in all different places. I got light, light's coming in from this angle because my kitchen lights are over there. So I'm getting cast shadow, right? So I'm just going to kind of block in where the cast shadow is coming from. And I won't get too much into it because getting into that level of detail, we're going to need more than what I normally do, which is about an hour. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start tracing the inside of the shapes. I'm going to start tracing the light, where the darkest part of the light is. All right, so if I look at my thumb, I can see where the darkest part of the light is on my thumb, right? And what's really helping me is my salty dog eyes, right? So I've got one squinted and I've got one closed, and I look like I'm a real mean sailor type of guy. Like, yeah, like salty looking. But what that's doing for me as I'm actually looking at things is it's killing the overwhelming amount of detail that I get when I'm looking at something. And there's something about having too much detail to focus on that makes drawing difficult. And you're like, well, wait a minute, I want to draw all the detail. Well, of course you do. Of course you do. That's kind of the point. But we got to do it in stages. That's going to really help. All right. Oh, yeah. There we go. So I'm just going in here. I'm just shading. Yeah, there we go. And again, this is just one of my favorite techniques, just turning the pencil on its side. And that way I can get these nice, soft, broad values. All right, I like that. I like it. All right, that's kind of my first pass. There you go. Okay. Let me get in here. That might drive me crazy a bit, just a bit. I'll notice I didn't draw that perfectly round, by the way. I took it as a series of small little straight lines. And that's how I built it. And from far away, it looks round. But close up, can't really tell. Or you can tell that it's straight little lines. So a little drawing tip. It doesn't always have to be perfect line work. What matters is like line weight evenness, right? At least for me. It doesn't have to be perfect like a laser beam, because that doesn't, like, that gives one look. But what I really like to see is variation, you know, especially where it makes sense for the weight to be varied. All right. That's going in, that's too dark. See, and that's the other fun thing about, like, once you start laying down tone like this, you can start to see like what's too dark, what's not dark enough, where do you need to add more darks. And so that way you start to build convincing light on the object, and your underlying line work becomes less important. So, you know, that's kind of an important tip too. Like, people think that it's all about drawing, and, you know, being able to sight draw, it helps. But your drawing is going to get so much better if you can learn to see the darkness. Oh, that sounds heavy. Learn to see the darkness. Learn to see the darkness of the object, and that will help you draw the object. So I'm drawing more of the darkness right now. And there we go. That thumb has some shininess to it. I might even take that off. There we go. Cool. There we go. Okay. So I've got a lot of my core shapes down. And if I were going to take a lot of time to do this video, I would definitely be adding more and more tone to even out and start to flesh out this drawing more. But at the end of the day, for my purposes, I want this to be a digestible video. I've gotten some feedback that half an hour may be the sweet spot. I don't know. I don't know if I can't. I think I have to talk too much. I think I talk too much already, and it's hard not to, you know. It's just like, but you gotta be able to show the people, you know. You gotta be able to, like, some of the stuff you can't just pick it up in a 5-second video, you know. All right, so I'm getting in here now, and I'm kind of jumping ahead. Normally I would build the values up, right, from 2H all the way up to 6B, which is what I've got now. So I'm going out and I'm just adding this additional darkness that I've already wanted to add. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Clean line work helps. So if you're at this point at home, then I encourage you to, excuse me, clean up your line work a little bit. I start drawing these real dark parts. And the thing about darks is you don't really want to overuse your darks. What happens when you do is the image tends to flatten and it starts to look like a cartoon. So if you can vary the amount of darks you're using, you know, great. If you need to erase into an area and work back into the dark, you can do that. Notice I'm going real light on these fingernails so that they're not like weird shape like that. I think that would just be awful. That would hurt me, that would hurt me deeply inside, emotionally. I don't know if I'd be able to bear it. I'm being dramatic, obviously. Maybe it's not obvious because I'm such a good actor. Huh. Yeah, okay. See, that was up here like that. That's why I'm seeing that way. Fingers moved all around. Today was not a good day to do arms. Now that I'm having to hold this up for this long, feeling puny. All right. Yeah, that hand's coming out, isn't it? It's coming at you. It's a little dark underneath here, so maybe I can. Oh, yeah, I see. That's what's doing that. So it's gotten a little dark under this finger. So guess what I can do? Boop. Take it off. Now I don't want to reapply value with the darker one. I want to go back to. I got to go back a step. I went a little bit too far, so now I got to go back a step. Now this is another interesting component to drawing, right? What I'm doing, rebuilding, because depending on the type of paper that you're using, some paper is going to be sturdier than other paper. Some paper is going to be real easy. Like if I was to just start erasing this newsprint a lot really bad, it would start to pill and it would start to rip. And then as I worked back into it, I'll get ugly spots that were not intentional, that look like accidents. So as you're doing your drawing, just think about the control of the pencils to the paper, right? Cool. And it helps when you build lightly. The darker something has underneath it, the more it's going to come forward. I'm going in now and I'm adding volume to the fingernails, because the fingernails are a different surface from the actual fingers themselves. I know that that's obvious, but you got to treat the surfaces different too. Like so, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to really bring out some of the lighter tones in the fingernails just to pick up some of the reflective qualities of the keratin in my fingernails. Might go, I'm actually going to go to my lightest setting here and define these little white parts. If you're a nail technician, you can tell me what the name of these white parts is. That would be great. I'm going to erase some of these guidelines here. Don't need them anymore. Really shouldn't be that dark to begin with, but for the sake of you guys out there in TV land, I want to be able to show some of my work. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to see it as well. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Big. It's cool. All right. Go in here, start building out my shadows. I want to be careful not to put too much pressure down. Notice here, put too much pressure down and made it darker than it really is. And when I start to lose details like that, I start to lose the drawing overall. Now, one thing to think about as you apply shading is also to be applying your shading in the direction of the shapes that you're seeing, right? So, if I think about the way that the muscle and the lines and everything are kind of falling over the shape, and I want to be sure that I'm tracking some of the similar qualities to it, because that's going to lend itself to my overall drawing quality. There we go. And then once I've kind of got things to a happy point, now I can get to the edge of my tool and start really refining things. Refining some of these folds, adding these dark values. I have a tendency to be sketchy everywhere, so if you want more realism, have a little bit more control with your, hey Megan, want to have a little bit more control with your edges, then by all means, stylistically, this is just how I do it. All right. So I've got that. The hardest part about using your hand is keeping your hand where it needs to be. I'm just going to let you know. It's going to have a tendency to want to wander. All right, so I got that. There you go. Cool. All right. So that one got a little bit more fleshed out. I could probably continue working for a while, but I'm going to just show you guys another hand perspective before moving on. So if you have any questions, please drop me a comment. Let me know. Let me just, where's this mouse? Let me check just to see if there's any comments. Hey, so do I use different pencils? 2H? Yes. Desiree, that is a good question. I use, you can actually go 6H in your pencil hardness. I happen to just stick with 2H. I think that that's soft enough for me. But I don't do super ultra fine, super ultra realistic drawings. I do tend to have more stylized line work in my work. So if you're wanting to go more that route, then a full set, of your 6H's, 4H, 2H, B, or HBB, 2B, 4B, 6B, 8B is I think the darkest. I've seen 10Bs, but like it's just like what's darker than black? I mean, just more black. I mean, until they can invent a darker tone, it's just kind of 6B, 8B is going to be about the same. So yeah, that being said, as I'm using pencil, so when you're working dry media and some wet media too, you want to work light to dark. It's a lot easier to go darker than it is to go lighter. And what that means is, like, I can start here with the newsprint, and the newsprint basically represents white. If I do another box and I shade it in, I will never, ever, ever, ever get this tone back. Even if I spend a lot of time trying to erase it, because now there's just slight pigmentation in the drawing. Now, here's an interesting thing you can do. You can, however, and I'm not trying to dissuade you from doing that, because it's a very effective technique for picking up reflected light, where you go ahead and shade the whole part. It's a little tangent here. And then you can come in and pick up that tone, right, just from there. That's why I love these kneaded erasers, because I can shape my edge to how I want it to be. All right, so if I need to get in there, if I need to make it a little bit tighter, I certainly can. And for those, if you just join me, Des, Megan, for you, there's your highlight. That's your closest point to the light source. Then your light, that's like your local color. If you're looking at a red object, you're going to see red. Then you've got the beginning of your shadow as the light fades away and more of the darkness fades into the shape. You'll get into your core shadow, which is the darkest or farthest point where the shadow begins. And then you'll have more of that, like you'll see more of that shadow kind of coming off as you round around back to the shadow tone. You'll get a layer of what's called reflected light, as the light bounces off whatever surface is sitting on the object, and then you'll get cast shadow. So 6 degrees of light. And so you can use the lead to your advantage. Some of the harder leads, you can do things like, add it and then take it back. So that's called an adductive reductive technique. So sometimes you add a little bit and then you take it away. So just a little pointer there for you. Out of your curiosity. Okay, moving right along. That's a hand or a hand. All hands on deck. Let's talk about just kind of a different pose. So I did kind of a thing like that. I don't know. Number one, it's kind of similar. Well, no, not really. Thumb was up. Okay, so we're going to start by looking at our basic building shapes, right? So as always, I want to think about my square. I'm kind of drawing it off on the side, but I'm basically going to draw a square or like a rhombus type shape to represent the basic shape of my hand, right? This is where the fingers begin, and this is where the kind of fat egg of my thumb meat goes. It's kind of like a fat egg or a square egg. I'm kind of doing it more angular right now. That's the fun thing, is you can switch it up. Now I'm going to do this group of fingers, and remember, when we draw fingers, sometimes we draw fingers together as one shape rather than thinking about them as separate shapes. And that's going to help us be more realistic when we're actually creating the individual fingers, because fingers move in groups. They don't really do that. I mean, they can, right? But if you're going to do something like try to do like separate your fingers and move them, it gets really weird. Like you feel how there's not enough strength. So anyway, all right. Number one, okay. Now be mindful. The thumb ball is here, so it's going in, and it's coming up here to that part. Boop, boop. And then the top thumb is kind of an oval that goes on top of the fingers. All right. Now this finger pointing up, this is a tricky finger. And that's why I like this pose. This is a tricky finger because a lot of people's temptation is to just go up and down. And you know, I get it. That it makes sense. It's a finger, it's a stick, you know, it goes right on up. But let me challenge you to think about the way you're building your fingers. I'm going to do a wide point here, and I'm actually going to wind up building a hexagon shape, really stretched out to make this finger. So I'm going to do this kind of first knuckle here, second knuckle, and I'm going to intentionally exaggerate and go a bit wider so that you can see what's happening. But even in my exaggeration, it's going to look a little bit more finger-like than that finger there, or at least in my opinion, because this top knuckle is so much wider than these other two little phalanges that if I represent that as one straight line, it's just kind of, you know, I'm not getting that space where that hinge is. Now I've got that space where the hinge is, and it makes a little bit more sense. So just a little pointer. I'm going to de-exaggerate this. I don't think that's a real word, but just make it, you know, be thinking about that. When you're drawing these objects, you know, you can exaggerate something, and that's style. You know, that's style points. That's what the cool kids are doing. Okay. Now, here's a little muscle right here. It's like a dome or a bowl upside down. I don't know. Maybe it's just extra muscle for gripping, or this like last little pinch here. Most of your action is coming from your forearm. But whenever I'm doing this, like there's a subtle little bump of this muscle, like right here, going past, like underneath this padding here, right? As the skin kind of comes up toward the finger. Notice I'm just being super loose, guys. I don't belabor stuff like that. I just do it. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm throwing in these kind of sideways lines like that. Throwing in those lines here like that. I'm getting that nice and bulbous-y. Something about hands too, like you kind of can exaggerate some line work and it makes it look even cooler, right? And some of it you can just, whoa, look at that fat knuckle that thing has. Cool. I don't know. Maybe I talk about art like a goober. All right. Fat wrist there. Bring that on in. There we go. Hey, that looks all right. We're getting there. We're number one. We're almost done. Hey. Okay. And then, all right, so now I've got this shape. Now I just drew a straight line across. Obviously, there's bumps in my knuckle. But, you know, as I do that line down, as I go to meet the knuckles with the outside silhouette, I'm not going to be, I'm not tempted to do like that action, right? Because all the three, like the bumps all at the same level is just like, yeah, that's true, but that's not really what my hand's doing. It's my hand is folding into itself as I close it. And so I can show that fold just by showing the different heights in my line work, okay? So just bear that in mind as you're making your shapes, that, you know, you're staying accurate with what you're actually seeing rather than what your mind is telling you to see, or what your mind is thinking that it's seeing. I'm going in here and refining. So the thumb, I drew it as a, an oval. That's just for shorthand. It's kind of closer to a carved bean shape here, right? So start with that oval shape, you know, whatever, and then kind of whittle it out. Boop, boop, there you go. Yeah. Easy, subtle, you know, not too crazy with your line work. And then you just start doing your little knuckles. Let's see, open that up a little bit. There you go. Do some of these squirrely digit lines. There you go. And that's it, you know, so we're starting to build. We're number one here. That's nice. This is the most patriotic hand. Do a little flag here in the background. Cool. Start. Oh, you know what? So now that I'm here, I'm going to start building out my values. So I'm just going to I'm going to make sure that I'm squinting like a pirate. So I got one eye closed and I'm squinting with the other eye. And that way I can reduce all the details down to just the shadows that I see. And wherever I see shadows, I'm going to just color in where that shadow is. If I don't see shadows somewhere, I'm not going to color it in there. And I'm being real loose, you know, not worried about 100%. I got this eraser. Eraser's my friend. Yeah. There you go. Okay, cool. Let's start by, that looks pretty good. You can read that. That's all I care about. Can you read that that's finger going up? Erase these guidelines. Now I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about jujitsu. And, you know, there's a lot of art in jujitsu, and there's a lot of jujitsu in art, you know. And, you know, one of the fun things about learning art is, you know, you get to a point where you can, I don't know, I use the term, it's like, you know, you study, if you ever played music growing up, you know, if you ever played piano or violin or guitar, you know, chances are you learned a little bit of music theory as you were going, because that's, you know, how are you going to learn how to play? Well, I've already shared with you some light theory, so that's nice. But there comes a point where once you understand the rules of music, you don't need them anymore, right? You can start to improvise. And it's through our improvisation that we wind up with wonderful art forms like jazz, right? Abstract expressionism, modernism, all that good stuff. Impressionism, oh, wonderful. Impressionism's wonderful. So I'm going to hit that as the pause button because we've done some impressionism tonight. And just free it up. Has anybody got any last questions? Anybody got any last questions? We're coming up on the hour with the drawing session. So thank you guys so much for your participation. Thank you for joining me this lovely Tuesday evening. I'll be back Thursday of this week where I'll be doing some live freestyle drawing using hands. I'll be doing basically an exclusive hand illustration. I don't know what I'm going to draw yet, so if you've got an idea, I would love for you to share it with me. Leave a comment in the comment box. Let me know what you think about the videos. If you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button because I love doing this. And if you like watching, well, then you can keep on up with me. So thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you next time. Cheers.